Hello and welcome to Level 1 FX. Today I want to talk about why some supply and demand works and others don't. But the main topic is supply and demand and fair value, and how the prices move in the market is all about supply and demand and fair value. And what exactly is fair value? So fair value is when buyers and sellers are equal in the market, so that the majority of people have agreed on a price. Okay, and here in front of you you have an example of supply and demand and fair value. And the thing is about fair value is that it acts like a magnet. So when price leave the fair value, it tends to come back to it. So it acts like a magnet, like shown on the picture. And when we trade, we have a rule that we don't trade inside fair value. And why is that? That's because there isn't enough supply and demand imbalance. So most of the supply and demand zones inside the fair value will not work, because there's not enough supply and demand imbalance to turn the price. So what we want to do is we want to look above the fair value or below the fair value for finding a qualified supply or demand zone. Okay? And you can see that when the price went above the fair value and touched the supply zone, the price fell. And that's because supply exceeds demand. And that's why we want to look above the fair value or below the fair value. And we can see in the picture that when price fell down and touched a demand zone, then demand exceeds supply. And that's why the price turns and moves up and goes even higher. Okay, so let's move on and let me show you in the market that what we want to look at and how to find a strong and qualified supply or demand zone. And when we look at the chart to identify a fair value, we will see that the price moves up and down very easily. And again, that's because there isn't enough supply and demand imbalance there for it to turn. And we know that the price will spend most of its time inside the fair value. Okay, so let me show you some examples in the chart and let's move on. So we are in New Zealand yen and it's the same chart as the picture. So we can take the same example again at the start. So we can see the price here has gone up and down very easily. And that's how we know that's a fair value, because the price have been there in a long time. Okay. So what we want to do is we have some supply and demand inside the fair values. And remember, we want to ignore them. Okay, but if we take this supply zone right there, we can clearly see that the price went through it. So the price did not turn. And to me, it looks like a very good supply zone. Look how it went down very strong. And but the thing is that it's inside the fair value. That's why it don't work. And we will find a lot of zones like these, but we need to be careful and don't take them. So again, if you look up above the fair value, like there, we have a supply zone right there. You can see how the price, when it touched the supply zone, it turned and it fell down. And it's the same with the demand zone. Then we'll need to look below the fair value. And if we mark it up and see, we have a demand zone right there. It's a small demand zone, But let's mark it up because that's where the price hit and took this demand zone. We can see it touched the demand zone and it went up. So we know that we need to buy below the fair value and sell above the fair value. I hope you can get the idea of it, and I hope you can understand what I mean. But let me find another example for you. If you look right there, we can see the prices moved up and down easily. Let me draw a box for you. We have the fair value right there, and every chart is the same, and in all markets, stocks, crypto, it's all about supply and demand and fair value. So we have a supply zone right there, and again we can see how the price just went through it. Maybe a little bit the price rejected from it, but it wasn't enough. It's not these kind of trades we want to take. So if you look above, we have a supply zone right there, and we can see the price, the turn, and the price fell, and it's above the fair value. So we want to take the first supply zone we see above the fair value, or we want to take the first demand zone below the fair value we see. We don't want it to be too close, so be careful with that. We want to stay away from the fair value. So let's move on. Let me show you a trade I took a couple weeks ago. So we have the fair value right there. Okay, if we move to 15 minutes, it was a 15 minutes trade, and we got the fair value right there. Price moved up and down easily, and below it we have a 15-minute demand zone. So it's a small demand zone, and I got about 46 risk to reward back, so it was a very good trade. And you can see how much it went up, and it kept going. So yeah, I got another trade. I sold USD yen. We have a small fair value right there. As you can see, if we scroll back, the zone is further back, and it's a small zone right there. And why didn't I take this one? It's looked very good, and the price fell down fast. But you can see right there we can see the price have been there in a long time. If we look above it, we will find that supply zone I took, because the banks know that a lot of people will take that supply zone, and they wanna, of course, to take their stop losses. So if we go to 4 hours, we will see that we are in a supply area. So it's a good time for us to sell. And in a 4 hour, we have a fair value right there. It created a fair value to trigger people into sell. So people will we call it early sellers. Okay, so when people are triggered in and sell from that area, eventually the banks will take the price even higher and take their stop losses and let the price fall. And if we look at the daily, we are on a daily supply, and if we will look at the weekly, we are on the weekly supply. So that's how we know that it's a good opportunity to sell. Okay, but we have to choose the right supply or demand zone. And I use all the time frames to analyze, because I want to get into the details and find the right supply or demand. So another example here, we have a fair value right there. You can clearly see it. And below it, we have a lot of demand zones. So we have run there. It's very close to the fair value. So that's why the price only went up a little bit and acted like a magnet. So if you look below the demand, we have another demand zone, and the price hit it and it moved all the way up. And if you look inside the fair value, we have a supply zone right there, and above, well, right there, and you can see how the price just went through it again. There isn't enough supply and demand imbalance. So let's find another example. So let's go to pound USD, and I have two examples right here. We have a fair value and demand zone. So that's the demand zone right there, and the fair value right there, and the price went down, touched the demand zone, and went up from it. And that's another example from pound USD. I actually put an order on it, and it's a very small zone, so it's hard to see. We have the demand zone right there, and we have all that trading activity, so the demand zone is below all of that, and we have the fair value right there, and it's below everything, so it's a fresh demand zone, untouched demand zone, and the price is near it. So I hope the price will touch it and goes up from there. And that's it for today, guys. I hope you got the idea of it, and I will come with many more exciting videos for you, so you can master the supply and demand. So please, guys, hit a like and subscribe, and you can always write to us if you have any questions. We will happily help you. And join our Telegram. You can find the link in the Instagram. We will make a lot of exciting things. So yeah, guys, have a great trading week, and I hope I see you to the next video. Bye bye.